This is the Pulse on Human Design.
Welcome back to the Pulse on Human Design. I am super excited today to bring you Dr. Karen Curry Parker. She probably needs no introduction, but I'm going to ask you, Karen, to just give us a little bit of a rundown on who you are in the human design space, which is a big question to answer.
It is a long question to answer.
Yeah.
So I am, or I was not so much a student of Ra Uru Hu. I actually worked for Human Design America in the early 2000s. And so I've been a student, and I would say a student and a teacher of human design for 25 years. Over the time that I have been teaching and sharing human design, I've lost count of how many books, but I've written a lot of human design books. Some of them are out with traditional publishing, some of them are non-traditional publishing. I have trained thousands of people to read human design charts. And probably the work that I'm the most proud of is I have integrated human design with a multi-layered, multi-dimensional healing modality called the quantum alignment system. And I have been, in the last couple of years, actively doing research on how to use human design as an assessment tool for practitioners and as a healing tool for people who want to get underneath and work on a metaphor level with helping people get out of pain.
I love that. Have you faced flack for your work in the market?
I would say, it's so interesting. That question always comes up. I mean, when you say flack, like, what do you mean exactly?
Like my background is holistic health, and I know there's always flack from mainstream whenever we bring in something and we say the word healing, or it's like everybody kind of, not everybody, but mainstream kind of like bristles at that.
Yes, that's a good question. So I would say healing is a word we have to tread with, and use very carefully for many, many reasons, including, the FDA does not get excited about the use of the word. So I would say in terms of blowback from the mainstream community, I don't think I've ever had that experience at all. And I think part and parcel because I don't really promise healing. I really talk about using human design and using some of the systems that we've created as a tool to get to the root psycho-emotional spiritual cause of pain. And so that's technically not healing. But and I would also say, especially in the last few years, we've been really careful to do research to give us at least an evidence supported way of talking about the work that we do. I think it's a brand new field in terms of integrating human design into research. I'm excited and hopeful that we will continue to do more research and there will be more people doing research to validate human design as a really powerful assessment tool to explore why are people experiencing pain in their lives and what they can do to rewrite their story to get themselves out of pain.
So you have a PhD now, correct? Yes. And was this the research that you based your thesis on?
Part of it. So I did my research on what happens when you use a creative approach to rewriting a story related to an event that caused you pain. And so in my research study, I assessed people's IgA levels, which is an important immune system component, which is in human design associated with the thymus and the gate 26, the gate of integrity in quantum human design. And what I did is I had people share a story or a memory of an event that left them feeling like a victim or feeling disempowered. And after we measured their baseline IgA levels before they shared the story, we measured their IgA levels after they shared this painful story. And of course, after they shared the story, their IgA levels dropped. Then we took them through a template for how to rewrite that story in such a way that they emerge from the story not a victim, but rather a victor, or they emerge from the story with an essential lesson that was key to helping them grow and evolve in their lives later down the road. And so when we had them rewrite that story, and we did, it was a very fun process. We had them use all kinds of creativity and a specific template that we pulled from the 3 gates in the head center, the 61, the 63, and the 64. And using creativity, story prompts, sometimes even imagination, and even we've even had people kind of move and dance and play as they rewrote that story. We had them rewrite that story from a new perspective. And when they read the reframed perspective about their experience, we actually watched their IgA levels go back up either to baseline or close to baseline, just simply from reframing perspective on the story.
That's amazing. Are you going to be publishing that work for the masses?
I hope to. I hope to. That's
On
it's
the
about
list?
8th on my list. I have another manuscript due the publisher on December 1st, so I'll get that done first.
Wow. Okay, so this is just like on a personal question for me. How do you make the time? How do you carve out the time for all of the books that you've written? Because I mean, I've got tons of your books. I learned from you in human design. So thank you for that. And I've got not all of your books probably, because you said you've lost count, but how do you carve out that time to actually do the work that matters the most?
Well, I would say that part of the way you phrase the question, I would rephrase, because I don't carve out the time. That sort of implies that I have to squish other stuff. To me, the writing and the sharing and the teaching and the transmission is part of the focus of what I do and why I do what I do. So the writing always comes first. Every day for me starts with an hour of writing. And that way it's done. It's kind of like your workout, right? It's like, then it's done. You're not going to avoid it. You're not going to procrastinate. It's there. It's part of just my daily rhythm. And so I think that having that consistent pattern and focus, I have the gate 5, allows me to really get a lot done. And I will say, and I mean this just, I'm just a very fast writer. I've always been a really fast writer, and that makes it a lot easier. I know that not everybody writes as quickly as I do, and maybe, and I want I hate when I talk about this because I don't want anybody to feel bad about their writing style. Everybody has different writing styles, and some of us are fast, some of us it takes more time, and it's all right. It's all correct, and it's all perfect.
Mm-hmm. And that's a big focus of your work too, is that everything is right.
Yeah, everything is right, except for it's not, but it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So why quantum languaging? Why did you change the language?
I didn't change the language, and I think that's an important thing to note. So when I worked for Ra, one of the things that Ra talked about a lot, and in fact, he talks about this in the Black Book, at the end of the Black Book, and I've definitely heard other people talk about this even on different human design podcasts, that when I worked with Ra, Ra always said that he wasn't done transmitting the information from human design, that traditional human design is designed to be spoken to the not self or the conditioned self. And he always said one day he would rewrite or rather he would write an awakened Ray Ching. Well, he passed in 2011 and didn't have the opportunity to complete that work. I sat with that information for a long time, and I really, it made me think very hard and very long about if human design, as it's taught in the traditional human design communities, is designed to be spoken and taught to and transmitted to the not self, then technically it's a prescription for getting us back in touch with the self, right? That the goal of following strategy and authority by type is to get you back in touch with your body, yourself, your baseline of your personality. And I have always been very, very fortunate to have attracted, I think, very evolved people who have always been very intentional and spiritually aware and very conscious. And I found, especially early on in my career, that a lot of my clients, my coaching clients, my students were saying, I love human design. I can feel and sense there's something really valid in there, but some of it I just don't relate to. I don't relate to the language. It feels really heavy. It feels really negative. And when I really began to think about, okay, this is a conversation, people are feeling the validity and the importance and the power of the system, but the way in which it's being delivered isn't meeting them where they're at, most likely because even though they didn't know human design before, they still had done a lot of work to decondition. They'd been longtime TM meditators or longtime people who use a lot of EFT and done a lot of inner work. And so I I really began to explore, well, how can I take the heart of the system and turn it into a way of talking about the system that is going to meet people at a different place than the conditioned expression. How can I talk about human design to people who are living at baseline already, people who really get, their inner working and their inner authority. And so I sort of began the process of looking at all of the parts of the system and the language that was used. And I'm a big fan of vibrations and sounds. And so I actually took a big thesaurus. You can probably see it there, the big red book down there, the Rodale's thesaurus. I just spent several years just writing out all the vocabulary of all the parts of human design. I eventually went into a sound lab and you sort of measured the sound frequency of all the language and then picked words that I think were high frequency representations of the archetypes in the chart in traditional human design, and then just rewrote the system in such a way that we could have a much more concrete, exalted expression of the baseline. So sometimes people ask me, why did you rewrite it? Or they say, why do you do this instead of traditional human design? And I don't at all. I teach it in such a way that most of our clients start off in the conditioned expression. We teach them traditional human design. You have to understand traditional human design because that's the path to getting back into baseline expression. That's the path to getting back in the body and really understanding, how does authority work? How does type, your strategy work? How do you get reacquainted with the body? Because usually we've numbed it out, right? When we're living in the conditioned expression, we're not listening to the body because the body would be driving us crazy if we did, because it's screaming like, let me out, right? And so we get back to baseline. And once we get back to baseline, then we can start exploring that bigger narrative of, well, who am I? What is my bigger soul purpose here on this planet? What am I really here to do or to activate in the cosmic plan in my existence in this lifetime? So that's when we then move to looking more at the quantum level. But you cannot leap from condition to quantum ever. You have to go in that order. Otherwise, you'll miss that really important step of getting back in touch with, and trusting your inner authority.
What do you think? So you talk about deconditioning a little bit here. What do you think, or what has been your personal greatest deconditioning when you came into human? I know it's been a long time that you've been
No,
here.
it has not been a long time. I don't think there are definitely parts of myself that are constantly reconditioned. I would say my open root center kicks my butt on the regular. Like I can be like, and then I realize, oh wait, that's my open root. What's the worst thing that's gonna happen if I don't do this right now? I'm gonna die, right? So I definitely, I think we never get deconditioned completely, and I think that's part of why I also like the idea of bringing people back to baseline versus deconditioning, because you're always going to get conditioned, and you're going to find more and more intimate and maybe insidious layers of conditioning. You're never done. And so I would say I'm always in a process of deconditioning. And the best thing that I know to do to not get reconditioned is to like get off of social media, don't read the news, don't go outside my office, and then I'm fine, right? But I would certainly say the biggest piece for me was definitely learning to trust my sacral. I'm a manifesting generator with an open root. I have 3 open motors, right? So I have sacral to the throat with 3 open motors. So I can amplify a lot of energy. And I was raised in a family where everybody in my family had a defined will center. So I have fake willpower. Plus I have the 2946. So if I'm responding, I can push and push and push. And my son is in the 29. So, I can commit to death if I'm not careful. And learning to trust my sacral definitely, it didn't slow me down, but it definitely made me more intentional around what I did. My personal mantra is just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I can do a lot. I'm configured that way. And that's not always a good thing, right? It can sometimes lead to really pushing too far, too fast in the wrong direction. And so the sacral really has taught me to take a second and really check in and feel into, is this really what you should be doing or not? So,
Does your sacral response change over time to the same thing?
um, I don't know. I don't think, I mean, there's definitely things I've been like, yeah. And then further down the road, I'm like, no, what did I do that for? Right. But usually if that's the case, there's been something really important that's come out of it. I think I have, I have spleen to the sacral to the G to the throat. So it's pretty much when it's right, it's right. Um, and if it's not, it's too late. I'm already too far down the road.
Yeah,
So
done, done and dusted. Yeah. So, looking back at your business career, is there something that has happened? I'm sure there's lots of things that have happened, but is there something that has happened that you're like at the time you were thinking, oh my God, that's a horrible mistake. What is ever going to come of this? And now looking back, you can go, actually, that's one of the best things that happened to my business. Like I wouldn't be where I am without that.
it's so hard because I don't think of things as mistakes. So I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
did I do a mistake? What did I do that was a mistake? Um, I mean, I would certainly say, and this one's going to hurt because I want it to be true and it's not, it just never worked. In the beginning of my business, I was very, and I still am, very passionate about getting human design out to as many people as possible. And I did a lot of programs and trainings that were bartered or were I taught like on a donation basis.
Mm-hmm.
That as much as I really, 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 really wanted that to work, I got myself into pretty significant hot water financially many, many times trying to make that model work. Because in my heart, I really was like, it has to work. I'll be supported by the universe if I just give it all away. And I wanted it to work so badly. And I really had to learn by extreme trial and error how to set good boundaries around my work because it upheld a different level of value. And I found later on, after I really made this mistake a lot, I think it really taught my students to get more value out of it when I valued it more. And I think what I learned, which was a huge blessing, was that if I put my head down and made the business as successful as I could make it, and not compromise on the value piece, that it actually afforded me more resources in the long run to then be able to turn around and give back. So now we give away, I mean, every year we usually give away about $250,000 worth of scholarships. We've done amazing, like on Giving Tuesday, we do a huge program and we've been able to give like tens of thousands of dollars away to different charitable organizations. I'm able to give a lot more now, having put that fence around that value piece and having sort of bared down and said, okay, no more scholarships, no more giveaways until I get my own foundation solid. And then I'm in a much more empowered place to give more. And it's really fun at this point. I had to wait a little bit. I think I was jumping the gun there on that.
Mm-hmm. And that is a good lesson for anyone starting out in business because I feel like that's such a big piece of when people start out in business, they underprice, they undervalue their services, they want to give things away, they want to trade things, and the energy is wonky. And if you're not sustainable in your business, you're not going to be able to help anyone else.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that was a hard pill to swallow because, as I said, I really didn't want it to be true, but it was true, and it is true still. I mean,
It still is, yeah.
yeah, it might change someday, but for now, it's still true. You still have to go to the grocery store and buy groceries with money. They're not going to barter with you.
Exactly. And the price of those groceries keeps on going up. At least it does in Canada.
Yes.
Have you ever had a launch flop?
It depends on what you call flop.
What you would call flop? Have you ever had a launch?
I don't call things flops. And maybe, I have had, I was raised by a delusionally confident man. I
Oh,
mean,
nice.
my dad is just a crazy, crazy, we say in Texas, a crazy ass optimist. Like there's never a problem in
Nice.
my dad's life. And
Wow.
that has been probably the greatest gift that he ever gave me is like I just don't think there's ever a problem. You know, probably my teenage kids get mad at me about that because they think I'm bypassing, but I'm like, no, really, it's not a problem. It's an opportunity. So definitely I've had things that flopped. I mean, flopped.
Yep.
We've had launches that, we had expectations. We've had years where we've set goals for profit, for growth that we haven't met. That's business. That's just inevitable. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And I think what I've learned though is when it flops to always find the blessing, and there's always one there. There's always some reason why that's going to be an important thing to internalize and learn from. And I think for me personally, my business is about the service. It's always about the service. And so if I'm not making the money that I envision or creating the value that I envision, I always trust that it's being delivered to the right people at the right time for whatever reason. And there will be some reason later that will make sense why it was the way that it was. It's a little scarier at this level than it was when it was just me and an assistant. And I have 11 employees. I take their well-being extremely seriously. I do panic when we don't hit targets.
Mhm.
And and if as long as you hold the vision, I find that even if in the moment it doesn't look like you want it to look, if you hold the vision, something else happens. Something else always happens. And you have to just stay the course and trust the process, even if it doesn't look the way your brain thought it should look. So
Yeah. And I think you said something important there for our listeners and our viewers because they are mostly newer to building a business. And so what Karen said was that it's actually a bigger deal now if something doesn't go as planned because she has a big team. Whereas I think the fantasy in the business world, especially when you're starting out, is, oh my God, if only I had a team, if only I didn't have to do this, if only I wasn't so small. But there's so many things that you can do. You can pivot a lot faster when you have a small team, when you're lean, it's just a little bit easier, and we're kind of sold a bill of goods that it's going to be easier when it's bigger. It's like bigger team, bigger problems, bigger money, bigger, like yes, there's beauty and gifts and all of it, but there also comes lots of other stuff with it.
well, maybe we just take size out of because really when we look at the design of business, right, that business is about yourself, right? It goes through
Mm.
the will to the throat. And it is a very personal journey. It's tribal and it's personal, and it is a journey of personal growth. And no matter where you are in your business, it is going to be a mirror of where you are, in particular with your own integrity and your own sense of value. And that's irrelevant at what tier you're at. And if you don't take the opportunity when things flop to trot yourself to the mirror and make eye contact with yourself and ask yourself, why did it flop? What aspect of myself and what I was envisioning did I not embody in my own story that I need to really evaluate? And certainly at this level, so much of what happens in the business is about my leadership with team, because I have the most competent team in the world. Like I have the most amazing, amazing, amazing team of people in the world. And if we flop, it's on me. There's going to be something in me in terms of I didn't lead right, I didn't hold the right tone, I didn't read the marketplace well, I wasn't listening to my clients, I got in my head. It's all on me. And so, I think you have to do that, not with self-judgment, because then I would be done. I would have quit a long time ago, but with compassion for the self and curiosity, like what happened, right? How can we do better next time? What could we tweak? So it is definitely, no matter what level you're at, it is a huge journey of faith and trust and growth and vulnerability and transparency and integrity, and you're putting your heart naked out into the world. That's business.
Yeah, I always say launching is like being invited to show up naked at your high school reunion and ask everyone to comment on what you're doing or how you showed up, like, and it brings up like the things that you thought you worked through already are going to come up when you're in the middle of a launch. Like there's just every single time you launch, there's something that's going to come up, whether it's something with your team or with you, it's going to happen. Okay. If we could spend another couple of minutes here, I would love to understand from you how things are different now. I'm speaking in terms of specifically the tools that are available in the human design business and all of these things. How is it different? Because you come from the day where like you were doing charts by hand. Yeah. I can't even fathom what that would be like.
Oh my God. When the business started growing, we were like running 1,000 charts by hand a week. And then, attaching the PDF and mailing the PDF. Oh my God, it was a nightmare. I actually had literally a whole team of people. I called them the chart elves that were just like running charts all week.
Yeah.
For a lot of years, that was my kids. So I would say, of course, one of the greatest advent is having access to the software, because in the early days, we didn't have access to software. We only had, one software program and then a second software program. And there wasn't a way to integrate it onto the website. So being able to have a landing page and a chart integrated onto that landing page and being able to use that as a way to start building a relationship with your potential clients. And then of course, having reports to add to it and really, that chart system is about starting to build a relationship with people to really, I always think of it, you're rolling out this red carpet and it's like, you give them their chart and they're like, look at you, you're so beautiful. Now let's help you understand what that means. And let's take you into the next level and the next level and the next level of relationship with us and with your human design. So that's probably single-handedly the biggest thing. And of course, being an author in conjunction with that, which I encourage everybody to do at some level, that means anything that I write and anything that I put out, it's got that link to that chart in there. And so it's created this constant stream of leads that are coming in. I mean, we are probably right now at this point, we get about 300 to 450 leads a day. That's 300 to 450 new people a day that we can start sharing information with and building a relationship with. And that's very, very powerful.
Mm-hmm. So if you could give one tip or more, if you want to give more, but if you could give one tip to people just starting their business, their human design business, their astrology business, what would you say?
Keep it simple. When I coach people, and they're just starting out their business, they come in and they're like, I want to have a podcast. I'm going to have a blog. I'm going to do this. And it's like, do readings. Sell readings and have a system in place that allows you to sell readings, and don't stray from that system until you get it tight enough to where that machine of lead conversion, giving readings, lead conversion, giving readings is solid. And when that's solid, then you can start adding all the bells and whistles like the podcast and the blog and the daily show on social media or whatever you want to add to it. But keep the machine solid with the basics before you start adding all this other stuff. It'll help you streamline your energy. It'll keep you from burning out. It'll keep you practiced. It'll help you get your messaging stronger. You'll learn a lot about different people, and you'll learn a lot about what you really want to do and what you really love to do or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no better way to learn reading charts than actually reading charts.
Right. Yeah.
Totally. It's crazy. Like it works. Okay. So final question. This is a big one though, but what is your biggest hope for the planet moving forward with human design and quantum human design and QAS and all of the tools and all of the healing work we're all doing? What's your hope?
Oh, my hope is that I don't have to do this anymore. That everyone, I mean, not that I don't love doing it. Obviously, I love doing it, but to me, my dream would be every child that's born, it's just part of standard protocol that the parents get a chart. We look at family dynamics through the lens of human design. They have a map from the very beginning of how they can best support the unfolding of this beautiful being. I like to think of parenting as being a stewardship, right? You're given this beautiful thing and you're just the steward, and you're here to, serve it and watch it unfold and support it and nurture it. And that just becomes the way we understand each other, that your chart goes to school with you, it goes to the doctor with you, it goes to your grandparents, it goes, you know, and you know yourself from the beginning. You know yourself well enough to know how you experience the world and your gifts and your strengths and what you're here to do and how you're here to be and how to sustain yourself and stay connected to your natural brilliance and your right place in the cosmic plan. So hurry up, everybody, because I want to go buy some land on a cabin. And
You want to get on a beach?
no beach, no beach. I want to be in a cabin on a mountain, but yes.
Oh, nice. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to be here. I appreciate you. And where can people find you?
You can find us, of course, at freehumandesignchart.com or at quantumhumandesign.com.
Thank you. And we'll link all that in the show notes for you. Thanks for being here, Karen.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.